for someone who's in a fight or flight mindset, very much entrenched in one particular mode or thought or belief system or ideology, will see the events unfolding. Let's say there's a riot and there's one group of people protesting something and there's another people protesting, counter protesting or something, and they get into a scuffle, and different people are observing this. If you're entrenched on one side of the issue, or even if you're in a third or fourth side politically, where you disagree with both of them or something, but if you're entrenched in that mentality and you see those other groups or the other group as a threat, then what will happen is you won't necessarily empathize with the other side. You'll see them as monsters that need to be trampled down in order for you and those you value to be safe, or that they're stupid or idiots and that need to be educated, or that they're insane and crazy, or that they're just bad people, right? There's a number of different perspectives that might be lacking in empathy and understanding. Now, you might not understand why they believe what they believe or what they actually mean with what they say. Or you might think you know, but you might not know. So when you're in fight or flight, when you're in fear, when you're in anger or these dense emotions, it blocks you from greater understanding. But here's the thing. Why is it that someone's stuck in fight or flight? Because they can't accept the other side and what they stand for, what they believe. They can't accept it. Why? Because think of emotions like a ladder, right? To get to the next rung, you need to get past the rung you're on. Okay. At the top, you get joy, love, and emotions like that. At the bottom, you'll get hatred and guilt and anger. Now, I'm oversimplifying. There's all these different. Some would be maybe like self-contempt might be lower than like anger or something, because anger is like you're actually doing something. So there's potentially high frequency there. But, these are dense emotions. That's the point. So acceptance allows us to, okay, suppose something happens to you in your life. Your computer, it freezes, right? And you're trying to do something. You're in the middle of a task. Suppose you're doing your taxes, right? You spent hours on it, and it freezes, and you lose everything. What happens if you can't accept that has happened? You can't accept it. No, I cannot accept that, right? Oh, pardon me. I need to I'll keep that in. Imperfection is perfect in its own way, right? Right. Yes. So if you can't accept it, then you might feel afraid of what might happen. Oh no, what if I don't get my taxes done? And then this terrible situation happens to me when I get fined, or worse, What if, or you might get angry at your computer. Why is it always like this? There's people who made this are doing this to me. I need to have a better computer, And you might get really worked up, right? It's like, oh, I'm such an idiot. Why did I do that? That would be like guilt, right? Or I think you get what I'm saying, right? But if you can accept it, then you can get to an emotion and a perception that is, I understand why this happened and that it happened, and that I'm all right. Because it allows you to come out of fear. Because it's like you're in the primal instinct of survival mode. And your mind is acting as if there's a threat to you. Because your instincts don't really differentiate between a threat to your survival and a threat to something you've imagined, or something you're invested in, or just something in your life, because we're like cavemen with advanced technology in many ways. I mean, we've evolved spiritually past being cavemen in a sense, but you get my drift. And the test or the challenge at this point in time is for us to transcend those instincts. That doesn't mean denying them and bypassing them and saying, oh no, we're past that, move on now. Because like, you've got your fears, you've got these emotions in you. They're not necessarily yours, but they've got these energies in you, and you need to accept and love them to move on, to let go of them, or to transmute them into something higher and more positive, right? And acceptance is key here, because you can't open your heart without acceptance. How can you love someone if you can't accept them? How can you love yourself if you can't accept yourself? If there's something wrong with them that you want to fix, or there's something you're afraid of about them, then you can't accept it, and you're not going to understand them, let alone love them, right? So acceptance of the other side politically, for example, or with any divide to do with, for example, something beginning with C and a solution being put forward beginning with V, you know what I mean? Or anything where people are divided about what to do about issues, right? Any belief system. Then you're just going to need a fight, or having your head in your hands, or running away in some way. You're not going to be able to understand them or yourself and what's really going on in a broader, holistic picture. Because what happens if you can accept the other side, you drop the sword, you stop fighting another side, and you actually, what happens is you'll start to gain understanding of where they're coming from, where before you just saw metaphorical demons and threats and monsters, right? Or idiots. You'll start understanding their reasoning and where they're coming from and what their values are. Jonathan Haidt, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, H-I-A-I-D-T, talks about moral. He's a scientist, but a social scientist, and his theory was a moral foundations theory. And the basis is that there's different moral foundations that people prioritize. For example, care is one of them. Authority is another. I can't remember the number. It's similar to community. Loyalty is one of them. Freedom is an extra one he added later. Purity is one related to the emotion of disgust. This is just an example. Basically, there's different values that people uphold, right? And political ideologies are linked to different values. Because apparently, when studies have been done, conservatives value each of them roughly equally. Left liberals, I mean, he said liberals, but let's say liberals or the left. It wasn't really specified much, but even though that is a distinction. But the liberal left, for example, they will prioritize care as the highest value, and liberty is like a lot lower. They might value it a bit, but it's a lot lower. So, not to say they don't care about liberty. And in fact, there's certainly been points where, for example, during the War on Terror, where the left was very much pointing out that liberties were being lost, right? So, I mean, every side, so to speak, has will value different things to certain extents. For for example, libertarians, they value liberty really highly and everything else hardly at all. That's the libertarian right, that is. The libertarian left will value liberty a bit more than, let's say, the left generally. And then there's the far left. That hasn't been specified. And authoritarians, so to speak, neo-reactionaries, or in any case, I imagine that they've purity. They value purity even higher than conservatives, and authority even higher than conservatives, but certain other things even lower. That's just an example, right? The point is, we have different values, and we won't see the values and the reasons why people believe what they believe that are understandable, right? If you can accept them and start to understand them. Once you understand what someone's value is, what their logic is, how they feel a bit more, what from their side of things or their experience subjectively they've experienced, right? You might have previously viewed someone as just a horrible person and now see that they experience what they've experienced in certain things might be completely understandable as an explanation for how they have acted, right? Not to say, oh, this side has done this, that, and the other, or these things have been done, so it's completely okay just because, you know, if someone's harmed someone and that person was on a certain side, it doesn't mean that's okay. But keep in mind that one person isn't like tarred by the actions of another necessarily, right? And you can't, obviously, you start to understand that you can't paint a whole group in a certain way based on the worst apples, right? So I think this lays a clear foundation for what's going on with these divides. And